Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Brooke, and these are my favorite books of 2020. Today I figured I would do a voiceover while I was making my favorite books of 2020 spread, because I didn't really get a chance to talk about all of my favorite books. So I'm separating this into two videos. So this is my non-romance favorites, and then I'm going to do another different spread that's my romance favorites of 2020, because I read so many books in 2020. I read, I think it was 189, so out of those I had a lot of favorites. So here you see me just cutting out different brown paper to make the little foldables that I'm going to make for each review. You'll see what I mean once I get into it, but I found a tutorial for this on YouTube. I'll leave the link down below. I can't really remember what the channel name was, but I'll leave it in the description and in the cards up above. So I'm going to make, I can't remember even what they're called, I think they're waterfall cards, and you'll see that they didn't really work out, but I still love how this spread turned out, so I'm really excited about it and I can't wait to show you guys. So here I'm just measuring out how many spaces you need for each book, and as I'm setting this up, because it took me a little while, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite books. So as you can see over in the right corner, I just have some of the little covers printed off, and the first one that I see is The Burning God, and I read this in November. As soon as it came out, I went to the store and just bought it because I was so excited and I loved it. I stayed up until 2 a.m. reading this book, and I cried, I screamed, I was literally gasping and I was just jumping up in bed. I was like, this cannot be happening right now. That book just took my heart and just crushed it. Usually I'm not like the biggest fan of fantasy, so the fact that I love this series says something. And like the characters in these books are just chef's kiss. Also, I See the House in the Cerulean Sea. I read that in around August, I think, and I listened to the audiobook, and the audiobook was so cute. My heart was so full just listening to that, and I already want to reread it because, like, as much as I loved it, and it was a favorite of this year, obviously it's in the spread, but I kind of can't remember a little bit about it, so I want to read it again, but I want to read it physically, and it kind of gives like Wayward Children vibes, honestly. So if you like that series by Shadow Maguire, I think you would really like this book. I also have The Black Flamingo. This is like, it's a middle grade, but it's also not, because the main character in this book, we just follow him throughout his life as he's coming of age and learning who he is and who he wants to be. He's finding his identity, and it's told through poetry, and it was so beautiful. This book is really hard to read, but at the same time, like, it was so good. I also see A Little Life, which is my favorite book of 2020. Out of all the books that I read, like, that book just wrecked me. Like, I loved it so much, but it also just hurt. Like, it hurt so bad. And I hate to recommend it to people, but like, I feel like I keep pushing it on everybody, because it has so many trigger warnings and it covers so many hard topics, but it's so good. Like, I just want everybody to read it so that I can just talk about it with everyone. Some people may not be able to handle this book, but for me, like, this is probably going to sound crazy considering what this book covers, but it just felt so, like, not relatable, but the ending really helped me, because at the time, somebody, like, in my family, I was going through this, so the ending just really helped me. But that's enough about that book, because I could sit here for hours and hours and hours talking about A Little Life. My Dark Vanessa was another favorite. It's also another hard one to read. I feel like this year I was just torturing myself because it was such a hard year and I just wanted sad books so that I could just cry. My Dark Vanessa follows Vanessa when she's 15 and she gets into a relationship with her teacher. And it basically just follows her in the past and then her in the present coming to terms with that this relationship was abuse, and it's just her figuring that out because she really thought that when she was younger, like, this was love, this was a normal relationship. And it's also like super, super dark, so if you don't think you could handle that, I do not recommend this book, but I really loved it. Also, I'm sorry that the camera is shaking. I kept hitting it because I had my tripod kind of positioned weird while I was trying to write this, so I couldn't really see what I was writing. Normal People. That is a very controversial one because it's either you love it or you hate it. And while some people say it was boring, I really think that it had an amazing message. Like, yes, it was slow, but it was more like a character study and more focused on the themes, which really shows, like, you may love somebody, but you may not be right for them at that point in your life, and that's okay. And it's not really a happy ending, but I just loved it, and the show was also so good. I cried reading the book. I didn't cry in the show, like most people, but the show was done so well for the book. It was very true to what this book did, and it made me feel the same way, if you know what I mean. The last literary fiction one for this stack was Educated, which is nonfiction, but I didn't really have anywhere to put it, so I just put it here. And I really like that one. That was my favorite nonfiction this year. I don't think I have any others on this list. And it's just crazy to me that what happened in that book could happen in real life. And I still think about it, like, it kind of haunts me, some of the stuff that happened. Because it follows Tara when she's younger and her dad is preparing for the end of the world. And he is so convinced that the world is going to end, and they live off the land and stuff, and he has his own business. He really thinks that the world is going to end, and he is stockpiling resources, and he won't let them go to school, stuff like that. And some of the stuff that he does to his kids is actually, like, so heartbreaking. And by the end, like, you find out why he's done all this, and they come to realize what really happened, and it was just so heartbreaking. And I'm so grateful that she published this book, because I know it couldn't have been easy to write that and rehash everything after it happened, but it's such a learning tool, really, is what it is. But it was also just so beautifully done. You can see here that I'm taking off the piece. This is where I messed up because I didn't leave enough to be able to pull it through to make it like a waterfall. So I had to improvise, but it still worked out because, like you can see, I just put it on the page and it still rolls up. I cut out me folding these two because it just took too long. So here's me just writing my little thoughts on each of these books. So my 3 favorite fantasy, I already talked about The Burning God. And we also have Chain of Gold, which I read twice this year. First on audiobook, and then I read it physically, and I annotated it because it was just so amazing. I don't even know where to start. Like, there's not much I can say because it's the 10 millionth book that Cassie Clare has done. But it was just so beautiful. I think it was her best so far, in my opinion. And I love the characters, especially Matthew. Matthew is a bean, and I love him. That's enough about Chain of Gold because there's not really anything else I could say. Middle Game, I read that during quarantine in March, and It took me a while, but I actually really enjoyed it, which I was nervous because it's not my type of book at all. And it was so confusing, but once you kind of read it, like, yeah, you're confused the whole way through and you don't really know what's going on. But, like, in a way, it's a nice confusion, if you know what I mean. In middle game, like, you're not mad that you're confused. Usually I would just DNF a book if I was confused because I don't have the brain cells to sit here and try to understand. But with middle game, like, it was a good confusion. And it's so worth the read. Like, if you like Shannon Maguire's Wayward Children, like, you should read this. It's not really anything to do with it. It's not the same type of story at all, but her writing is just crazy. Like, you just want to keep reading because you're confused, but you just want to know what's going to happen. And I really like the relationship between the twins, Roger and Dodger, in this book. I'm sure everyone knows what it's about, so I'm not really going to explain, but yeah, that's middle game. Then we're on to my thrillers. I had 5 thrillers here. We have Verity, which is a thriller romance. I put it into thrillers because it's more on the thriller side than the romance side, which I really enjoyed. Like, I was so creeped out reading this book and I just could not put it down. I put it off for so long reading it because I love Colleen Hoover and I didn't know how I was going to like this book, and I was really scared that I wouldn't like it, so I put it off. But then I finally read it and I just like binged it, and it was just so good. Like 5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend to everyone. I put it here because I already had too many in my romance spread, which will be up soon. Long Bright River is also kind of a literary fiction, but it's also a mystery, so I put it here as well. That book is about the opioid crisis, and it follows this police officer as she finds out that her sister's missing. And it's kind of like a family drama, but also a mystery, and I really enjoyed that. The writing was really good. Felt like I wanted to keep reading. Like, I sat down one day and I just binged it because it was just so immersive. The other 3, The Turn of the Key, I don't really have much to say about it. It's very popular. I loved it, the audiobook. I know a lot of people don't like it and say that it's kind of boring or they don't like the ending, but personally I love the ending. The audiobook was so scary. Like, all the little creepy noises and the creaks in the floor and stuff was just like making my skin crawl, especially when I was listening to it and I was home alone. I kept feeling like I had to turn around and check behind my shoulder, so I always recommend that as like a starting point if you have never read thrillers before. And the other one was Someone We Know by Sherry the Pinna. I hope I'm saying her name right. I read a lot of her books in 2020, and this was my favorite by far. Someone We Know is a community drama. I don't know if you would call it community drama. Like, I don't really know what to call it. It's like this street and they're all neighbors. There's a word for it and I can't remember what it is and I'm blanking right now. But anyways, it was like a whodunit mystery because a body turns up in one of these people's cabins and they don't know who did it. And it was just like reveal after reveal after reveal, and I was so shook every time and I was so here for it. It's definitely her best book. You're following so many people, but it's not even confusing. It's just like mind-blowing. And then the other one was No Exit. That was my last book of 2020. And at first it was atmospheric, but I wasn't loving it, and I did not think I was going to give this book 5 stars, but by the end I was just like, the last, I would say 20 pages, it was just crazy. Like, I didn't even know what was going on at the end, and I was just like, what just happened? So the ending really made me give it like the 5 stars. I really did like the wintry atmosphere, and it was creepy, but the end is what made this book for me. Then I thought I spelled thriller wrong here also, which, where are your brain cells? Because that is right. But I just never think I can spell, so love that for me. The stamps I'm using are from Walmart and the stamp pad is from Amazon. You can probably get this anywhere though. And these flower stamps that I'm using are from AliExpress and they are so adorable. I live for these flower stamps, honestly. If you watch my reading journal flip through, you would have seen these in my April theme. This washi tape is also from AliExpress. And I used a Tombow for the yellow and Crayola Super Tape for the brown colors. I'm so obsessed with these abstract circles. I'm sure everybody's sick of seeing them by now, but I just love the way it looked. I'm so in love with this spread. Like, I am so proud of myself. Even though I did mess up on the waterfall cards, they ended up turning out so nice still. So I'm so proud. And here is just the final product of the spread. That's it for today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and please comment down below and let me know your thoughts on any of these books, if you read them or if they're on your TBR. I hope I could convince you to add some of them to your TBR. I know I didn't really give good synopsis because I didn't really want to give synopsis. I just wanted to talk about how much I love these books. So yeah, that's it. Thanks guys. See you in my next video.